Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington. And today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, I would say, from the various networking and wedding events and things that we go to. It's Kellie Blair. She's the assistant manager at Historic 1625, which is an really awesome, I think, wedding venue down in the Tacoma area. And I've been pestering her repeatedly to come on the podcast and share some information. And she's so gracious to come on today. So Kellie, thank you so much. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and where you work and what you do.
Yes. Well, thanks for having me, Reed. I definitely needed a little push to get on here. So happy to be here today. I'm Kellie Blair. I'm the assistant manager at Historic 1625. And we're a wedding and event venue in Tacoma. And I'm here now. Our wedding season truly never really ends here, but this is my 5th wedding season here. So I've been here for just over 4 years. So pretty excited and get to see I always say I see my coworkers on the weekends because I work in the office a lot. So get to see you and all our other vendor friends, primarily at events.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, first off, I think we should just kind of talk about the venue. I remember the first time, I can't remember the first wedding I booked there. And I had done a little Googling and to try to get a little, insights into what's going on. But I mean, it really is a cool spot. I mean, especially for Tacoma, I think it's, pretty convenient location and, just all the amenities and stuff. But just kind of tell us a little bit about the venue and what it kind of is.
Yeah. So our venue, it's a 7,000 square foot venue. And we have kind of set up, in terms of weddings, we're perfect for ceremony and reception. And we can seat a good number of guests. So looking at Tacoma, we're one of the few venues that can accommodate those larger weddings. We obviously do a lot of smaller events, but can do the larger ones as well. And then do non-wedding stuff as well, corporate, nonprofit, holiday party stuff like that. And we're pretty close to downtown. And then I think the beauty of it is that we're all indoors. So knowing the unpredictable Washington weather, whether it's 9 degrees and snowing like it was in February, or it's 80 and sunny like it was this weekend, we're all good to go. So no worry there when you're planning that, no matter what happens, Washington weather-wise, you'll be good here. And then just our amenities, we have plenty of space for getting ready. Being in our industrial setting, also, we allow events to go later. So we have a 1 a.m. curfew, which some days when our staff is wrapping up at 1 a.m., we might not love it, but the guests definitely love it. And then we let people bring in their own alcohol too, which is huge. But we're just a fun indoor venue in Tacoma, and we get to celebrate every weekend and then some with people. So we're always seeing all sorts of events.
Yeah, I mean, I really just think it can't be undersold, the indoor aspect. I remember one of the weddings I had there years ago now, it was one of those crazy October storm. They had said that, storm apocalypse, that it was going to wipe out power for the whole region or whatever. And I can't remember who I was kind of dealing with at the venue that day, but I think a generator or whatever was brought in, but that wasn't really needed. And I'm it really doesn't matter what happens outside or what's wind and blowing, because we're going to be inside rocking it, and even doing details and portraits and stuff inside, and just a lot of different unique textures and backdrops and stuff. I mean, I just think people nowadays, where you're trying to plan weddings and dates are so scarce, and we're always worried about the weather. I mean, even our couple on this Saturday specifically booked their venue on the weekend that they did 2 years out, because he really knew that whatever reason was a good weather day. Yeah. And where you guys could go to yours, it doesn't matter. It could be, 20 degrees outside and you're still rocking it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if it's rain, we've had so many rainy days, and you can do all your wedding photos inside if you need it. We've even had couples who have come to us and been booked at an outdoor venue and just said, hey, we're losing sleep already. We're having those nightmares. We just need to eliminate this from our plate and totally change gears and then book indoor. And then 2, we'll have couples who have always dreamed of the summer outdoor typical wedding kind of that a lot of people think of. And then they'll come and be like, all right, we love this space. We can really get married whenever now. So we have people who their whole wedding plans just kind of change just based on the fact that they can solely be fully indoors, which is nice, which keeps our calendar full year round then too. So that's exciting.
No, Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that I think is one thing we really wanted to talk about today is some of I don't know if it's challenges or just different things between where you guys have events almost every day, weekends all throughout the year. I mean,
Mhm.
is there a lot of different coordination you guys have to do, or how do you manage where, let's say, like an outdoor garden venue,
Yeah.
Memorial Day and then Labor Day?
Yeah, I mean, we stay busy. We're doing a wedding every weekend. So I think the nice thing is that we're always fresh, we're always on top of things, we're always current. We just kind of get in our routine and are just doing the same thing week after week, just full time and staying busy. I think so many people think of wedding season as season. But we are definitely full year round. We were at a lunch recently with a bunch of venues in the area just talking about issues we face and things. And we were the only indoor venue. So it was kind of funny to get their take on things. They're like, oh, yeah, we capped the bookings for the year. Like, we're only doing 30 weddings this year. And I'm like, man, that sounds like a dream. I mean, we're doing 90 plus weddings and then corporate beyond that. So it's funny to see different perspectives. But I don't know, just functioning year round. I think it's great. We're always current. We're always fresh. The space always looks its best. So we're able to meet with clients all throughout the year, every day. We're really just able to showcase who we are year round. Kind of what you see is what you get. And it's kind of nice just to have that consistent product, to be able to meet with people throughout the year and show them.
Yeah, I mean, even like having the bridal and the groom getting ready there and kind of everything. I mean, it's every wedding that we've done there where everything's there, because we've done weddings there where we've gotten like married at the church or whatever, like Matt and Kimberly got married at the church. And, but where it is the days where we're all there, like it's so much easier not having to like go 1,000 different places. I mean, do you find like what kinds of couples and, do you find that like you guys attract, and what people that they're looking, what kinds of ones find you and like what you guys have?
Oh, goodness. I'd say our clientele is really varied. It just really kind of depends. Let's see. We have a lot of couples who just really love the space for what it is. As you know, a ton of decor isn't needed in the space just because there's so much character going on. So we just get a lot of pretty laid back, easygoing clients, which is nice. A lot of people that are good with go with the flow, that if they make it downtown for portraits, great. If they're utilizing the bricks, the greens, what we have on site, they're happy. We always say in our kind of amongst our staff that we think the whole term bridezilla is kind of a myth to some extent. And I don't know if we're just blessed with great clients or whatnot, but we're truly lucky that each weekend we're dealing with amazing couples that are just thoroughly happy to be enjoying a wedding day as it should be. And I think just having everything on site and just a really relaxing setting where they can be in the bridal suite, but see things kind of happening together in that reception room and ceremony room is such a peace of mind for them, but they're able to still relax and days going and kind of everything's in their control, even if they're not really the ones in control, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I remember we had a wedding there where there was something like they were going to have an arbor belt, and whoever was building it like showed up late, or they couldn't, something fell apart, or there was some sort of issue. And like you said, where there's, really minimal amounts of decor is needed. And like, I think they just took a couple of the flowers or whatever from the thing and like affixed it to the wall. And we're like, man, I was like, I think it looks great. Like I wouldn't stress at all. Like I think, I would just, and so, I mean, talk about just kind of that natural, not natural, but just kind of like cool industrial kind of modern look that, I don't know, what is the look you guys have there?
It's kind of all over the place. I know I don't know if you like advertise on any of the wedding websites, but a lot of them from a venue standpoint are like, describe your venue in one word. And for us, it's like, how do you capture the space? Obviously you've been in the space, but for those who haven't, it's brick walls, there's vaulted wood ceilings, like a slate floor, like just a lot of texture and color going on, but in a very natural way, which is nice. So it's just kind of a good slate for people to build off of. So some people take the space and they run with it and go really rustic, kind of do that rustic look that we've seen in weddings, or some of them go very sleek, very modern. Some people love it because it's industrial. So it's always funny to hear a couple's take. It's always hard. We don't really ever kind of put the venue in a box, kind of label it, because everyone sees it differently. And I always say every wedding, like when it gets all dressed up, it's fun to see kind of a couple's take on it, because Friday we could be doing the blush, the gold, the white, the very romantic, pretty setting. And then the next day we could be doing the more rich colors with like the navies and the burgundies. And it just takes on its own persona, the venue. And even seasonally, it's fun to see kind of how it changes. So it really is hard to kind of describe it and kind of capture in here. I'm now on a visual tangent. Don't remember what you asked, but
no, I think that's great. No, and yeah, like you said, were you guys in doing so many events where it's like back to back, and you can see like two totally different takes on like the same, basically the same space, right?
Yeah, and I see the space every day, and then some people talk their vision. I'm like, oh, like I'm really excited to see that. I've never thought of that color combo before, and then I'll take it at home, and my mantle on my fireplace is always changing in decor. So I'm like, yep, definitely liked what they did with their wedding. So I'm going to try and see how I can incorporate that in my personal life. But a lot of people go simple and just do candles and greenery and it looks stunning. Or people just take it and enhance it and just add their color, add their personal touches. It's just fun to see it get dressed up and kind of see someone else's take on the space.
That's awesome. So walk us through a little bit of the history of the venue. I know that it's got kind of a, with the cars and everything. I don't even know if I know kind of the whole history of it. So I'll let you do the talking.
Yeah. So the building itself, it's on South Tacoma Way. And that street in Tacoma used to be kind of a main drag, the industrial area. So a lot of businesses here. The building that we are, it was built in the late 40s, 1948, I believe. And it was a car dealership for most of its life. I believe it started out as Dodge, but most of the Tacoma people know it as Osborne McCann Cadillac. And then that dealership they moved out to the I-5 corridor just once that became more of a main drag, and then eventually got bought out, I believe, by one of the bigger names. And a husband and wife, they're the current owners. They bought it about 15 years ago, I believe, 15, 20. And they did some work on it. The husband has a business that he runs out of it. And the venue just kind of came about with time. They were volunteering for like a local board and they needed a space to hold a dinner. And they were like, oh, we have a space that we could make work. And so a dinner was held here and that kind of got the wheels turning. The catering was like, oh, we've never heard of this place. This is amazing. And then the owners got their brains together and did some work, established the changing rooms, did some work on bathrooms, catering space. But they added all the brickwork that's here was all added. All the slate that here is added. The roof's original. So the stunning wood roof is original, which is nice. But they took the space and just kind of enhanced it into the space that it is now. So took it from like a white garage into now the stunning venue that it is.
That's crazy. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And then the car, like we have, I guess, an ode to the history of the cars. The current owners, the husband's really into his muscle cars, kind of the classic muscle cars. So we have his collection on display and they can actually get incorporated to the event. So we do cocktail hours amongst the cars and just kind of a fun little talking point for couples, for guests. I'm sure you know from your end that it's always nice to have guests entertained. So you have time with the couple if there's certain shots you want to get done or if things don't go as they went earlier in the day. Doing cocktail hour in that space really opens up the venue and opens up time just to kind of have some flexibility. And then too, we're able to appeal to often a lot of our grooms love the space just with like the brick look and industrial look. The cars too, we give our guys kind of a voice early on in wedding planning. They feel like with the venue that they've kind of gotten a little victory, which helps down the road for both ends.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. And even like, kind of in the guys getting ready and you kind of overlook the cars and stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's like a TV and like, like an N64 or something. I don't know. There's some video game system up there.
A lot of people bring their own video system.
Or maybe someone brought it in.
I'm like, how did you sneak that in on your wedding day? But yeah, we try and keep the guys entertained and out of the way, which is always helpful, I feel like. But yeah, they have a really cool room just to get ready, relax. We've seen Mario Kart. We've seen all sorts of things in there. So it's always funny to see what they're up to. But yep, they're entertained in their space and they love it.
Yeah, no, normally it's like the guys are like relegated to like a little, closet or I don't know. We had a wedding at it was a girl's grandparents. It was their property like 2 weeks ago. And she had like this big, big house, whatever that I'm sure that they, live in or whatever time to time. And then the guys, it was literally like this plywood shack that they had built, like, and I'm sure like, because it was their property, like, I think they had built it like just for the wedding or like, maybe they store like their lawnmower and stuff in there, but just like in there in like this plywood shed. So it is nice to have, more of a decent getting ready room for the guys.
Yeah. It's nice for them to have their separate quarters, and often like we'll do tours and the guys like, we see the venue and we see like the first change suite and we make our way downstairs. And often the guys are like, oh, am I in a closet? Where am I? And then they're like, man, this is bigger than the other one. And then like all of a sudden the mood has changed and they're like, wow, this is great. And it's just a cozy little fun room. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So where do you, in terms of like Tacoma venues, because I always think it's interesting because like, a lot of like my clients, especially with like videography, end up like going down to Tacoma as opposed to like living down there or living south. Like, do you know, like, and in terms of like the other venues in Tacoma, like there's not like that many, right? In terms of big, nice, like I know there's like the museum, right? I mean, where do you guys fit in there in terms of like the other ones in the area? Because, Tacoma's big, but it's not like Seattle where there's,
a million
10,000 venues. Yeah.
I think Tacoma's varied. Like it has a lot of different options. So it really comes down to size of the party and then kind of look wise. There's not really much that's the same in the area, which is nice. So it's hard. I mean, we're still fairly new as a venue, I'd say, but established in some regards. But we get clients from everywhere, from up north to down south. So people really just are always on the hunt for like the perfect price point and kind of the perfect venue look wise. And I think Tacoma pricing wise, just compared to some of the Seattle venues, is a little more affordable. So a lot of people will have their dream wedding with us just because they're able to afford the venue compared to something else they saw that couldn't quite make budget work in all regards. So I don't know. I mean, the wedding industry, I feel like, is really tight knit. So it's hard to kind of compare yourself to others. But I just think size, we can do up to 350 guests, which is huge and hard to find without being stuck in like a cookie cutter, large, maybe museum setting of sorts. That's not really set up for weddings, whereas we're perfect for weddings and can do the large number. And then two, being solely a venue, we're a good option for those who want to have the church wedding and are working around the church requirements and are stuck with the 2:00 Saturday wedding when the pastor's available. We have a lot of flexibility in our schedule. So we do a lot of reception onlys that are large, that are looking for those large venues with flexible hours.
Yeah, it's tough nowadays, just like I said, where the venue is like takes up like such a chunk of everything. And I mean, because I was talking with one of my assistants the other day and he said, man, we really don't go up north as much as we used to. And I said, well, a lot of this year we have a lot of like private residences or people trying to like figure out ways where they're not spending like an arm and a leg like just for the room. And so do you guys feel like you're a little bit more of an approachable place for people to choose?
I think so, yeah. And I mean, our pricing hasn't changed tremendously during my time here. I think we are definitely affordable. And then the fact that you don't have to do a ton of decor wise, you're kind of taking money away from that budget and able to invest in a videographer or a day of coordinator, or maybe a vendor you didn't consider before. Or you're able to go on a nicer honeymoon or kind of have some disposable with your budget. And then two, like, our Fridays are hugely popular, and they're more reasonable than Saturdays. So our Fridays are almost just as popular as our Saturdays, which is uncommon, I think, from a venue standpoint. But we let rentals go as late as 1 a.m. So our Fridays are often a 6:30, even 7 o'clock ceremony, and then still having your 5-6 hour reception into the evening. And so we get a lot of Friday weddings, which make for busy weekends. But I think just being a sole venue and being how flexible we are, and being reasonably priced, being in Tacoma, I think we're definitely a good option for everyone.
So how did you kind of find your way here to Historic, and what's a little bit of your origin story?
Yes. So my background is actually in collegiate athletics. And so I studied sport management in college. And what I loved and my passion was really the event management, venue operations side. So to me, football game day, basketball game day, just the sounds and the excitement kind of all the little pieces coming together to get to the end product is really what I loved, kind of fell in love with that event side. And I loved it. I worked in D1 athletics and then slowly made my way back home to Tacoma and just kind of switched industries a little bit. With athletics, it's always fun if you have like the pride or tradition that comes along with the athletics. So I went to Washington State University, go Cougs. And so WSU game day is just something, I don't know, something you just have to experience. It's just kind of its own little world. And even the years when like football wasn't doing great, you still like football game day was just exciting. And just different places that I worked, slowly I learned that you put in these long days. And then some days it's like, why do I even care? Like we've lost 20 games in a row. Like students aren't coming. Like the morale's just like, let's just get through another game, whatnot. And so I switched avenues a little bit, and jumping from athletics to the wedding industry kind of seems like a big jump to some, but really I'm doing all the same things. So coordinating different pieces, doing timelines. But at the end of the day, everyone wins come wedding day. So someone's married and I don't know, it's just a W in my book every weekend, which is nice. So we have happy tears instead of the angry tears. You have like just a whole different, more positive emotion instead of the boys crying and punching the lockers and being pissed that they lost. So it's been a nice little change. I'm from the Tacoma area, so it's nice to be growing my roots here. I told myself I'd never return home, but I've made my way here and I'm sure my parents appreciate it. So I've just slowly settled in Tacoma and just really fallen in love. One thing that's been the biggest adjustment is going from the hustle and bustle and just kind of the large staff of an athletic kind of department to being in the office by myself or just being a small staff. That's kind of been the biggest transition for me. So, and also going from khakis being dress up attire to now dress and heels kind of being dress up attire. But yeah, so I slowly kind of path, not much change, but no.
That's awesome. That's yes. Funny. So you like what you were like planning the event stuff for the collegiate, or what was?
So it was basically kind of all the logistics behind game day. So coordinating with the visiting schools, coordinating transportation, security, police escorts, ticket taking, just kind of all the little pieces, and just making sure it flowed. Timeline. Our timelines were down to pretty much the second. And there's a lot of parties obviously included, from people unlocking the stadium to the security to concessions to marketing to all the different things. But a lot of our work would be televised. So you're thinking of things kind of to the second, you can't really mess up. So when I'm watching baseball games or in person, I'm like, oh, the national anthem seems like it went longer than the minute 35 that it's supposed to. Like, it's changed my perception of things, but also given me a pretty OCD outlook that I kind of still have. So from the venue standpoint, it's like, are the chairs straight? Are what's kind of looking at things and being like, okay, like we're ready. So I see a lot of my background come out still. And so a lot of like the OCD tendencies that I've had, and just being so punctual and having that ingrained to me just to be normal, I think definitely pays off. Yeah, I'm definitely OCD to some extent in a like linear way. So I'm always finicking with tables or garbage cans or, oh, that doesn't seem right or whatnot. I've gotten better, but definitely comes out of me every now and then.
That's awesome. What was it about kind of that atmosphere that drew you to it to begin in the first place? Like what inspired you to get involved in all that?
I think I just love, like, I know you go to sporting events pretty often. I think if you just like sit there at a sporting event and you just kind of like take a moment and take it all in, I think it's just something special. So like the sounds of the band, the cheers, all that, the smells of like the popcorn and I don't know, the fresh grass, just all those little elements I think are just really made it special. I grew up like watching sporting events with grandpa, and I just think that it's just such a fun atmosphere, and knowing that like that was work every day was being like working a football game was work. Yeah, I probably didn't know what the score was or how we were doing, but like just being in that fun, upbeat atmosphere, it made working those 12, 14-hour plus days really enjoyable. Just because everyone, like there's just so much aesthetically around you and just such a exciting atmosphere. Similar to the wedding world too. We have that kind of going for us, but yeah, just kind of the sounds and the excitement. It was just kind of a fun setting. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like this is actually something that you can consider work is really what it was.
What was, obviously besides, switching from like cleats or grass and what would you say, khakis to dress?
And my polo and a radio. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, besides obviously that, what was kind of entering this wedding world? I mean, were you, I was, I think, woefully unaware of just kind of, leaving news and coming into, weddings and, the venues and the vendors and the websites and the trade shows and everything. I mean, were you prepared at all, or what was your kind of initial kind of entering that and having to kind of help market this venue to a bigger,
Yeah, at first, it was interesting because like being from the Tacoma area, it's like there's so much I didn't know about my own area. And so like just learning about companies that I kind of knew or areas of town that I didn't really know about was fun to learn about. And then too, like I took over for a lady who was having a baby. And so we trained in the office one day for like all of a few hours and she was very pregnant. And so like I got that one day of decent training. And then it was like, okay, all right, well, here you go. Like she's having her baby and that's that. And I was like, whoa, all right, well, here we go. And so a lot of just kind of figuring things out on my own. And I'm like, there's not enough work to keep me entertained for 8 hours a day. Like, what am I supposed to do? And now I'm like, oh my God, there's not enough hours in the day to do what I need to do. And so it was a transition at first, kind of just getting thrown into it, getting right into wedding season and kind of figuring things out for my own. Being a small business, you don't have a ton to rely on. It's kind of you and you're going to figure it out and make it happen. And it needs to get done. But it's been an adventure. I think back to my first wedding season or just kind of things. And it's fun to just look back and see how like the business has grown, kind of think back to clients' weddings in that beginning and just see kind of how their life has grown. It's interesting. But yeah, I definitely knew not a lot about the wedding world at all. It was like, what is this? What's pin tuck linens? What's like all like shari chairs, like just learning all the different things. And then slowly just realizing like, despite us all being pretty small businesses, we're kind of all in it together to some extent. So we're kind of all in this, I always say we see our coworkers on weekends. So seeing you guys and we're all just kind of one big team to some extent. I mean, there's enough work to go around for all of us. We're learning. There's so many weddings happening every day. But yeah, it was quite the transition and definitely exciting. I think we just recently moved our office. We were in the venue and now we're just next door. And during that transition, we kind of had a lot of time to reflect on us as a business. We were finding like old paperwork and old files and I'm like, oh, remember this couple and remember that. And really just kind of owed to us, like, look at, we've made it. We've like goals we set out for us in the very beginning, our goals we're hitting consistently. And it's just exciting to be a part of a small business and have that happen. And then being a part of an industry too, that really supports each other, or we can rely on each other and refer business to each other. And I think that's really come true. Like we do mainly weddings, but every now and then we'll get like a celebration of life phone call, something that needs to get put together in a matter of days. And those events are always rewarding for me. So we're like, don't worry, like enjoy your family. We'll help you. We'll take care of you. And we can call catering and help them hash through it. We can call someone to help with music, stuff like that. We can really lean on our friends. So it's been nice just to build that team and just help build a business that's still fairly young. And to know you have a decent part in doing that and building the reputation and growing it and seeing each year you're doing more and more weddings, I think is just crazy. Or meeting with clients and be like, oh my gosh, I came to my friend's wedding here a couple of years ago. And once I got engaged, I knew I had to call you. Or like, I've driven by this building all the time and didn't know what it was. Like, it's so nice to be in here. It's just fun to hear those stories. So I think this year, especially, we're getting a lot of referrals, a lot of clients who have been in weddings, been at weddings, had siblings even get married here and plan their own wedding. So it's been kind of fun. It's kind of it's nice to reflect every now and then and just kind of evaluate your business and kind of give yourself a pat on the back. Say, hey, we're doing it. All right, back to business, back to this weekend's weddings. But no.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys talk about, we're newer, but I mean, compared to a lot of venues, I mean, you guys are, I mean, there's new venues like every day, I just went and shot a new venue last week. I mean, so, you said they started converting that like 15 years ago?
Yeah, we did our first wedding actually June 2012, so 7 years ago. In the first couple years, I obviously wasn't here, but we were doing like a couple weddings a month maybe. And now this year, I think we have 90 weddings on the calendar and then like 20, 30 corporate events beyond that. So it was always a goal we set to do 100 events a year. And the last couple of years, we've really hit that. And then so it's always like, that used to be something like, oh my gosh, like, are we ever going to make it to 100? And now it's like, okay, we made it to 100. Like, where are we going to end up this year? But yeah, I mean, I say we still fairly know. Those first few years, we're kind of figuring it out, getting word out there, just kind of, establishing yourself as a business. But since I came on 4 years ago, we've increased significantly, which is fun to see. So seeing it established and be like, all right, now how can we get more? What can we do? How do we still build our brand? How do we gain exposure? What do we do? And I feel like that's something like as you know, like I see you at events, but like networking things, stuff like that are such a huge thing for us. I think it's important to unplug from business and just kind of get out there and just meet people you've worked with or vendors that you've always aspired to work with and just meeting those faces. I mean, we're stuck in our brick walls all the time, but getting out there and really, I mean, we don't have the luxury of going to a different venue every weekend. So really forcing ourselves out there and just kind of meeting new faces and continuing to spread the word, both client wise and vendor wise, is always something that we're looking to do.
Yeah, I mean, and it must be challenging too, trying to network and, meet people and clients and stuff where like, if I'm meeting people or clients or, whether it be a vendor or a couple, like a lot of the times it's like me or like the team we're selling, or like if you're a photographer, besides obviously you work like where you guys, it's always like, well, now you like come back and see our beautiful venue. Do you find it's more challenging that way to like network and market that, where it's like you have to come? I mean, and this is for any venue. I mean, it's not just you guys, but as a venue, do you think that that's more challenging?
I definitely think so. I think the marketing as a venue is its own beast. Often the venue is the first decision for clients. So how do we get these people to pick us, make this their first big decision? And then two, just like, you can see the space in photos, but half the thing is just standing in the space and getting a feel for it. So one, how do we reach these people early on in wedding planning? And then two, like, how do we get them in the space to see it? Whereas like your work speaks for itself on the internet, like, oh, I can go see the video. Like, this is know what I'm getting. Obviously they might want to know the process and get to know you personally, like who they're going to be interacting with. But venue is just so different. We don't attend like wedding show, like the large expos like that. We did early on and just didn't have huge success, just because most people there are already in the planning process and already have a venue. So we're only reaching a limited audience. Each year we do like an annual in-house open house, which is huge, and kind of the best way to market it for clients who are already booked and meeting some of the vendors we see all the time. And then two, potential audiences too, getting people in, seeing it set up like a mock little wedding. Marketing a venue is always tough because it's typically the first big decision. So sometimes we'll get referrals from different vendors if they know they want to work with a certain, like if a photographer did their engagement photos or something like that, or I don't know, but often we're the step one, and then kind of plans expand from there. So it's kind of backwards from everyone to some extent. And then two, it's like you can see the end photos, but that's a product of the photographer to some extent and all those that went into the wedding. So getting them in the space and just talking through, getting them to picture the venue is tough. And people are like, oh, like once they walk in, you can just kind of see like eyes light up and be like, wow, like I didn't even know like this space was this big or this is gorgeous. Like it's just fun to see like once what they've seen on a picture or website or whatnot, once they see in the space kind of soaking it all in. It's fun to see that process with couples.
Yeah, it's funny. I've talked with a lot of vendors at wedding shows, the venues, and it's like, it is so hard because you're like, oh, hi, do you have a venue? Yes. Oh, okay. Like it's really hard. Yeah. Where it's the first, it's either all in or bust with a lot of couples, we're like, video, it's like, maybe we want that, or we're thinking, or like absolutely yes, or absolutely no. But like for a venue, yeah, you are like, it's either all or not. And then, you're obviously along for the ride for the rest of it, And
how do you portray a space in a 10 by 10 booth when your ceilings are 20 plus feet high? And it's just, the wedding show, it's always fun. Like I've attended just to wander and see vendor friends and say hi. Like I've gone for that purpose. But as a venue, we just stick to kind of our in-house open house. I feel like every venue does an open house. I feel like it's just something that you have to do and it's fun putting on. And that's kind of where we kind of focus our efforts in terms of like wedding show wise.
Do you focus, in kind of your role, are you more, kind of day to day getting, coordinating, figuring this stuff out? Are you trying to figure out how to kind of expand and get new clientele or try new ideas? Or are you kind of 50-50, or where do you try to focus your energy on?
I kind of focus my energy on just handling the day-to-day interactions. So, being a functioning full year. We are constantly having inquiries. We're constantly beginning steps, middle steps, final steps with people, kind of all over the stage with people. So primarily my efforts are focusing on keeping up with clientele and just kind of booking tours and getting to know couples or people who are in the midst of planning, answering their questions, kind of finding like fine-tuning details and then finalizing things. We always try and take time. And I think this is something that we really learned attending Wedding MBA a couple years ago, is how beneficial it is to just kind of pause from your everyday routine, kind of step back from business and just evaluate things. And that's something we're still trying to implement, is just kind of a yearly pause. Let's take inventory of our website. Let's look at rates, kind of see where we stand with everyone. What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? What are things maybe we can start offering to couples? What can we take on? And just kind of thinking and things, kind of just doing a little evaluation of ourselves. But every day we're dealing with, we get calls constantly, emails constantly of people always looking. So just keeping on top of that is a full-time thing in its own. And then still kind of tending to the business and growing it, and social media, networking. What do we want to expand our offerings into? What can we do? You can only do so many weddings a year. So just thinking about how can we make things easier for our couples, stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah. Like you said, I know like come every, end of the fall, like you said, we do have an off season, right? And we can kind of figure out
May to September wedding season. Yes.
But but where you guys don't, it must be really hard never really having, obviously it probably slows down, a little bit in the winter than summer, but it's like you just don't have that. I think most vendors would say, at least in this area, would say like they have a definite season and then kind of like a regrouping time. Yeah,
there definitely is. I feel like a clean cut season for most people. Our wedding season kind of runs March to December, which is basically almost full year. March through December. And like the fall, winter months are often our busiest. Like August into December is really our crazy, crazy time, which is very backwards from a lot of people. And then January and February, like obviously, yes, we're still doing weddings, and that might be considered a slower time, I guess, from us, but that's really engagement season. So that's when we're meeting and booking and doing a lot of busy work, non-event, like kind of the beginning stages. So it's like, if it's not wedding craziness, it's engagement craziness. And then during that slow time, like that engagement season, I don't know, it's hard calling it slow time because it doesn't slow down, but slower time when we're not doing 3 weddings a weekend is busy engagement time. So meeting with people constantly throughout the day, doing contracts, doing all that. And that's typically when we do our open house as well. So we fill out our slow calendar. And with our season just bleeding year round, it's always hard from our staffing end to like reboot and just kind of keep things going, treating a December couple the same we treat like a March couple. I think we do, like, we really pride ourselves on our customer service, I think, here, and kind of how we treat our clients. So just always going to every wedding fresh as if it's the beginning of the season. But I took 2 weeks off this year and went to Europe. So in February. So it was nice. We had like 1 weekend without anything. So I was like, I'm doing it. I'm leaving. 2 weeks. Here we go. It was after open house, kind of before it was crazy season kicking off in March. So I think that was much needed, but it's hard to find work-life balance when things are just so crazy and weekend wide. Yeah, it's a fun world. So you just learn to accept it as the norm when it's definitely not a norm. Like if I have a weekend off and I'm not working, I'm like, what do I do with this time? Like, what is, like, 2 days off to me feels like vacation in a row. So it's always funny that the craziness of our industry, how we just kind of balance it and manage it.
Yeah, I definitely know that. I get a little more irritable in my October weddings than I do in like my May weddings. So, I get a little more like annoyed by certain
or like
things.
December, it's like the corporate parties who like you don't hear from. You're like, hey, I need to know these things, and it's like you're trying to do last minute that, and then it's fun. But yeah, I think I don't know. We do really well. We try to just go in fresh faced all the time. And when you're used to just working every weekend, that becomes the norm. It's just, all right, here we go. Like, it's wedding weekend. Like, let's go. But
how do you, with kind of marketing newer, we talked about doing the social media thing. I mean, like, I think you guys are pretty good about, posting and marketing and, doing that kind of whole aspect of things as well, where, I can't tell you how many venues I like still shoot out where they like, can't tag them on stuff because they don't have an Instagram, or like, you can check in, but it's not the right. So like, talk about that and focusing on that as kind of like, coming in as a younger person to help kind of run, do these things that you're doing, like talking about that aspect of things that you have to work on.
Yeah. So I think just coming into a new industry, I just kind of looked to kind of people in the industry who I saw as really strong key players. My first wedding I ever did, there was a really great vendor team. And so just looking to those, I'm like, oh, great, this is going to be easy. Like, DJ's amazing. They had a wedding planner, like catering was top notch. I was really spoiled that day. So Callie Holcomb, Tony Schwartz, Neffens Catering, thanks for setting the bar very high. And I quickly just kind of learned that that's not always the norm. But just looking to marketing a venue, I just said, all right, what are other venues doing? What are other just vendors in the industry doing? And what do I want to replicate? What's just kind of just feeling out for what's the norm? Like what are people doing? And then taking my spin on it and saying, okay, what can I share? What do I know? And social media is not necessarily a strong point, but like the marketing aspect, I think I get. And just appealing to an audience, like I'm in the age range that's utilizing social media on a daily basis and every day. So like, what are my friends using it for? What are colleagues using it for? Just kind of figuring it out. I think social media can get overlooked pretty often. Like some days I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't posted in a few days, or maybe I should do this. But I think just looking to others and then kind of figuring out how you want to do it. But I remember, I got an email saying, hey, like we found you on Instagram. And I was like, what? Like it's working. Like, I think that was just kind of a huge day for me that I'm like, okay, I'm not just like putting stuff out to the world to nobody, or people are like, oh, I love following you on Facebook or Instagram, or like we have a mom who's like the most loyal Facebook follower ever. It's like right when I post something, it's like, so-and-so liked it. And I'm like, oh, thanks. But I think social media just is, it's just a good way to portray your business. you're already getting free marketing. Photographers are always sharing the work. Videographers are always sharing the work. Like everyone's already sharing their work. And so be able to just have those professional photos, the professional marketing material, just be able to put out there with a click of a button is huge. And I think a lot of times the social media aspect is lacking, or you can see that it goes in peaks. So like, oh, they were really on it this month. And then like, okay, well, there's 6 months of silence, or they haven't posted in 3 years, or they have 4 different pages. Like obviously their staff has changed, or who knows what's going on. And we just make it routine that all our staff at events takes photos and shares them to me. And then we kind of try and figure out their vendors too. We don't always get that information from clients, but trying to figure out who a photographer was, who videographer was, just to build our network too. And then to reach out post-event too and just say, hey, it was so great to work with you, or keep an eye on their social media pages to tag them. And then 2, couples are always excited to share wedding photos too. During their planning, they saw like what we posted during their planning time. They're like, I want to be that person. Like, I want to be the face in the photo book you show people. Like, I want to be on your flyer. I want to be on your website. Like, how do I make that happen? I'm like, share wedding photos. Like, that's all it is. Like, just share with us. But I think that's something that I've really tried to make a push, and try and pride myself on it. I know, like, I've gone, like, sometimes I'll schedule things and be like, okay, like, you should post about this or happy anniversary, whatever. I don't know how I keep things sorted in my brain, but like, I'm pretty good about like keeping things organized in there somehow. So just will remember to do certain things. But, and then 2, our staff we have younger girls too that are really excited about social media, teaching me things every now and then, or like, do you know about this editing app? Or like the photos they send me, I'm like, oh, that's definitely, like, you definitely did something cool with that, or you have a different perspective. So it's fun to see. I don't know. I feel like social media interested started in my sorority days and kind of that, but applying it to a business and seeing, like, I started our Instagram when I started here like a month in. And so seeing it grow and just seeing that be kind of milestone of where we're at is pretty exciting. And then just learning the trends and what are people using? Do you hashtag, or are people really seeing my stuff? Or that's just, it's never ending changing, I feel like. But just staying on top of it and just sharing your business is important. I think just getting pictures out there, just share. Why not? Someone's looking at it, so it's helpful.
Yeah, I have a very complex network of little things that I use to kind of help, like you said, kind of keep track of, things and what to do. And I woke up yesterday and that had all been, the plugin that had been used for years to do all that stuff had been removed by Google. So I was not a happy camper yesterday, having to figure out how to rebuild years of...
like my biggest, like, Facebook used to keep like your personal page and like a page you manage separate. So you could have like separate feeds. And now it's like all blurred into one. And it's like, I was like, why did they do this? Like, what are they doing to me? And I remember that. And I'm like, now I'm just like over, like, I'm like, whatever. But I think we always have something to share, which we're lucky just having an event, at least one event every weekend. We always have something to share, or sharing about like clients' testimonials, stuff like that, or the non-wedding stuff. Always trying to find something exciting to share about, I think, is always the biggest challenge. But I don't know. It's always funny to see what people like or what they respond to or stuff like that. Everyone always wants like behind the scenes, like what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, all right, like nothing too exciting, but we'll see.
No, I had a bride that years ago that she was like, hey, I'm getting into real estate. Like, can we just kind of sit down and just kind of pick my brain about that stuff? And I was like, man, like, yeah, you post like going to get gas on the way to the open house. Like, I don't know, like do something, like, anything you're doing that relates to, if you're on your way, just got a new flyer printed out. Looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You just kind of figure it out. But you said,
you figure it out, and like how trying to make like a business, like have people relate to you. So knowing that there's like a person behind the business and like, oh yeah, like I could really look to spend a year with this person, interacting with them, planning my wedding, stuff like that. And then 2, I think so much in the wedding world, the couples want to feel special. It's their day. And so kind of making them feel special by sharing details that they're doing or stuff like that. Social media just is an easy way to relate to clients or kind of get a feel for them by like asking questions, just kind of get some research, and then to make them feel special and share a little bit about your day. I mean, like, who doesn't love getting a shout out? Like, I went to Flat Stick Pub yesterday for Father's Day and like posted a picture on Instagram, and Flat Stick Pub was like, hope you don't mind we shared your story. I'm like, go ahead, have at it. Yeah, thanks.
No, I do feel bad because I definitely have like certain brides and grooms that get more, they have me bug them a lot more about, I post a lot more and tag them a lot more. And I'm like, the better your wedding, it was a good wedding if we're going to post it. Like, I'm not, I'm not posting it because I think it looks like crap. I'm posting it because I thought you guys, I thought it was cool. I thought it was pretty funny. So.
I know you're really good about like anniversary posts and like life updates and stuff like that with couples. I feel like you and then Elegant Affair, like Lori Losi, like you two, I always like admire the social media work. I'm like, how do you keep this straight in your brain, or how do you do this? And like me coming into a business that was already kind of going, it's like, who are these photos from? Like, what are they at? Like, to me, it's like trying to keep things organized moving forward has been a push that I've been trying to do. But it's like, I admire you and I admire Lori for what she does. Cause it's like every anniversary, I'm like, man, you guys are killing it. Every baby.
Well, yes. Well, no, the thing that, like you said, kind of having the things in place now, because like, I'll go back and look at like old weddings. I was like, how do I know? I don't even have like a vendor list for this. Like, I don't even have like, who the hell was even just that stuff. Like, I feel like I'm always refining and trying to figure out like, I used to just have like, names, date, location. And it's like, you need to have a lot more to really do a good job posting. You need to, like you said, get as much of that vendor list and kind of everybody else. Yeah. Unless it's Tony Schwartz, you never need to comment and post about Tony Schwartz ever.
And then, and as a venue, like we don't really get that information. I love Tony. We never get that information. Like sometimes we go into wedding days not knowing a ton, and we're just along for the ride. And then there's other times we know everything. Like I could write clients Christmas cards for them almost. So we have like a varied relationship with clients. But it's like, and then at weddings, it's like, oh, like I'm so like I don't have cards, or I'll send you an email, or it's really hard to network sometimes or know who did what. And so it's like I'm relying on photographer, or like hoping maybe they put historic 1625 as the location, or doing a hashtag, or sometimes I just like am creeping on the internet, or like I'm a big fan of like Googling our business every now and then just to see what's on the internet. And I'll always find like random blog posts or like old wedding videos. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen this before. Like, this is great. Like new material to work with. Or sometimes it's like months later, like 7 months later, we'll get an email from a couple like, hey, just wanted to send some wedding photos. I'm like, oh yeah, I've asked for those a few times, but thanks. But yeah, just trying to figure out vendors, or like you get really great photos and you're like, well, who is your photographer? I'm like, well, I feel guilty sharing these, but I've asked and hopefully someone lets me know. But yeah, figuring out vendors is always like, just let us know. But it's a challenge.
I do make them fill out like a thing. And like you said, for the most part, you get it. But I had the people that did the makeup on Saturday, they're like asking the photographer. And I know I have their info already, but they were like, didn't ask me for my card. And I was like, well, it's going to be in the video too. I mean, maybe, I have your info, I'll take it, but like, I would have asked for my card. I just thought that was interesting. She's like, oh, we really need to get the photographer's information. I'm like, yeah, we're here, but it's fine. That's a tangent. I want to ask you about, kind of before we go here, I want to ask about, we did the Rainiers baseball game last year. We did the Rainiers this year for a lot of, South Sound vendors. I mean, we're West Seattle, but obviously like come down but talk about doing those. Obviously, like you said, you're from Tacoma, back now, like the mentality behind, trying to build this, get people to the community, engage the vendors there. Walk me through that.
Yeah, it's something that I just am passionate about. Like, I think our industry is really good about being networked and interacting with each other, like especially on social media or at events saying hi. But outside of that, I feel like we're not very good at like unplugging and building those relationships beyond like event and social media. And I think it just stems from working for such a small business and being alone a lot, really just building that network in the team and building those friendships. I mean, having like a group of work friends is always something that I've loved at every job I've had. And that's something that I grow kind of working events and stuff like that. But it's just something that I kind of made a personal mission. Like, I'm going to try this. Let's try and get together. And last year's event was a small little mighty group of us. And this year we had a fun turnout at the Rainiers game. And it was just fun to see people who I've worked with on numerous events like you and some of the other people there, or people who were newer in the industry maybe and wanted to network with people and didn't quite know how to do it. So just creating kind of an event or something to get together where we can all just chit chat, enjoy ourselves, kind of just unplug from work and have some beers, watch some baseball, just chit chat about whatever, where it's not we're behind the scenes in the kitchen, like shoving our food, listening for like first dance all of a sudden to be announced, where it's something where we can actually like put our focus on each other. And so I don't know, I just enjoy doing stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. It's just something that I'm trying to make my personal mission and kind of build the wedding industry and get us to interact outside of events. I know our personal lives are always precious time that we value, but it's just something that I felt I needed to do and looking forward to do more events. I know there's a lot of established networking group stuff like that, but I just don't feel like anything's really appealed to me or really drawn me in. And it's just something I felt I wanted to do. And so I did it. So.
Well, and it was packed this year. I mean, we went last year too, but this year was packed. I mean, it was like standing room only.
There was like 50-ish people, I think, there. Which is great. I mean, I like you and Dorothy coming down. Like, I always appreciate you guys making the trip down, but it was just fun to see such a fun turnout and positive feedback. And so I was thinking in the back of my head, I mean, in all my free time, like, how do I make this happen? Like, how do I get this accomplished? But I don't know, the wheels are turning, doing something fun vendor wise. I feel like we deserve it. So just building those relationships. I mean, they're already strong, but it's nice to just get to know each other personally and talk about people's kids or just touch on things that you don't normally do, like in passing at events when we're working. Yeah, build those friendships.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, what is one thing you wish more people knew about the venue that you guys have?
Oh gosh, one thing I knew about I think when people kind of come into the venue and see it, they fall in love with it. I think some people are quick to judge just being in Tacoma or being in our setting. And I think I wish just couples in general just like learn to enjoy the wedding process. I think there's so much stress and so much pressure people put out on themselves. Just be relaxed and whatever happens, happens. But I think just giving all vendors a fair chance is something that all couples know. I don't know if that's a good answer, but.
It's a great answer.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Get down to Tacoma more. That sounds like a good
Yeah,
place.
come to Tacoma. It's actually fun. Yeah. Coming from a girl who said she'd never come back to Tacoma, and here I am. So I enjoy it.
It worked out.
Yes.
Well, here's somebody that you were nervous about filming a podcast. I said, we got to get 40 minutes. We're at 58. You've done a great job. Excellent work promoting and talking. If people want to learn more about, the venue and kind of everything you guys have to offer there, like I said, I mean, I've shot there a time. I really do think it's cool and the all-in-one and indoor and casual, just really easy, place to kind of get married and get ready at. So if you want people to learn more about that, where would they check out?
So you can go to our website. It's historic1625.com. We make it pretty simple for you. And then we're on Facebook and Instagram in terms of social media wise, historic1625. Or you can, our email is just info@historic1625.com. I'm the primary contact in the office, so you can chat with me, visit me in person, come visit. But yeah, I'm Historic 1625.
Perfect. Well, thank you again so much and for coming on finally. So coming, yes. I've been asking and finally doing it.
It's long overdue.
No, but it's good. And I think it's a great vendor type, just to get more venues on as well and kind of make it get as many people of different types as we can kind of into this wide podcast kind of directory more than anything besides kind of a weekly feed. It's kind of, building this directory of voices. So.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we need to like choose the next person, like force them to do it. That should be the new step. Like I did it. Now it's your turn.
Like in the ice bucket challenge.
Yeah. Like, all right, here you go. Yes.
Well, you can't name somebody, then not get them. So if you name somebody right now, you really have to get them.
I know.
It sure as hell isn't going to be Tony Schwartz because that guy was already on.
No, I know. We gotta have beers with you.
Never have to talk to him again. I'm teasing.
I feel like Tony, so we give him a hard time. He's just too easy. We love you, Tony.
We love you, Tony.
Yeah.
Well, we'll connect offline, and you tell me who we think I'll reach out to, and it'll be like the
pressure on some people now that I've done it. So
this will be like The Grudge, right, where the curse follows, and you have to offload the right. Isn't that how that works?
I don't know if it's a curse. Yeah. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Before we go, I have a podcast, a link. I say it at the end of every podcast. If you are interested in coming on and not having to have Kelly or I kind of chase you down to come on, you can go to www.bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. Kelly didn't even need to do it and gladly filled it out today as well. I knew who she was, but that was awesome. And I appreciate having that in my records as well. So bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest if you are interested in coming on the podcast. You good?
Yep, I'm good.
All right, I'm going to bring it home. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.